Co-op or condo? Which New York City home grows your wealth and which quietly drains it? This co-op versus condo in New York City face-off might save you six figures, skip it, and you could trap cash in a slow-moving asset. Stick with me and you'll discover which option fuels a smarter long-term return backed by real New York City price, tax, and appreciation data, how each choice shapes your daily freedom from renovation rules to amenity perks, and the most asked Reddit FAQs answered with insider nuance you won't find in the threads. Picture a Lego road that forks. Left lane, a pre-war co-op building. The right lane, a shiny glass brick condo. Two buyers, roll forward. Co-op lane, they slam into three roadblocks. Board package, liquidity test. Interview? Condo lane, they glide past one modest cone, right of first refusal. Yes, the condo costs about 15% more upfront, but it races to the finish while the co-op buyer burns weeks and dollars at every checkpoint. As of the second quarter of 2025, the median Manhattan condo sold for about $1.67 million versus roughly $850,000 for a co-op. So condos cost nearly 50% more or almost twice as much than co-ops. On a per square foot basis, Manhattan condos averaged about $2,045 in the second quarter of 2025 versus roughly $1,192 for co-ops. Let's talk about monthly costs. Condos run about $3.28 a square foot once you add common charges and taxes. Co-op maintenance averages around $2.51 a square foot. Scale that to a 1,000 square foot home and you're looking at roughly $3,280 a month in a condo versus about $2,500 in a co-op. Now, let's zoom out from the month to month and look at the one-time closing costs you'll wire on closing day. Condos add two big tickets. First, the New York City mortgage recording tax, about 1.8% on smaller loans, 1.925% once the mortgage exceeds $500,000. Second, there is the title insurance, another 0.4% to 0.6% of the purchase price. Co-ops dodge both of those, but many buildings charge a seller-paid flip tax, usually 1% to 3% of the sale price. Both property types share a few more line items. The state's progressive mansion tax, 1% to 3% on deals over $1 million, the New York City and New York State transfer taxes on resales, plus attorney, lender, appraisal, and move-in building fees. So, when you tally the co-op versus condo closing cost delta, remember, condos pile on the recording tax and title insurance, while the co-ops can sting sellers with that flip tax. Everything else, mansion tax, transfer tax, legal and bank fees, hits both sides of the lane, and that's the spend side. So what about the upside? Since 1999, Manhattan condos have sprinted from about $800 per square foot to roughly $2,045 today. That's a 326% jump, or about 5.7% a year. Co-ops move too, but at a jog. Around $370 per square foot, then to about $1,190 today. That's a 233% gain, or about a 4.6% annually. In other words, condos have delivered the stronger long-term price growth. Here's what that growth looks like in real life. Meet Dr. Patel, one of my condo clients. Back in 2010, he bought a brand new one-bed in Midtown Manhattan. He locked in a 15-year conventional loan and handed the keys to a single renter who still lives there today. Every month, that rent check hits right on time. It covers the mortgage, fees, and then some. Fast forward to this year, 2025, the loan is paid in full, courtesy of the tenant. Meanwhile, the condo itself is up about 60% since closing day. Now, Dr. Patel enjoys a debt-free second home and a rising asset, while his tenant stays put in a place that they love. That, my friends, is the textbook investment win-win. Now, before you chase your own Dr. Patel style payoff, let's see if you can clear the financing gatekeepers. Because co-ops and condos, they grade your application in very different curves. Co-ops first. Expect 20 to 30% down, and the trophy building still asks for 40 to 50%. They want your total housing debts at or below about 25 to 30% of gross income. On top of that, plan to show 12 to 24 months of mortgage and maintenance in liquid cash after closing. Condos are simpler. Most jumbo lenders are fine with 10 to 20% down and cap debt to income at the standard 43%. No board, no extra liquidity test, just whatever reserves the bank requires. So if your cash is tight, but your income is strong, a condo keeps the door open. If you're flush with liquid assets and like the lower sticker price, a co-op could still pencil, but just be ready for the board's microscope. Next hurdle is the board approval. And this is where the condo versus co-op gap gets real. In a co-op, the board can vote no for almost any reason as long as it's not discriminatory. One member could be having a bad day, hate the look of your Zoom background, and that's it. Application denied, no explanation, no appeal. A condo board doesn't have that power. Its only tool is a right of first refusal, meaning the board would have to buy the apartment itself at your exact contract price. In practice, that almost never happens. Unless the deal is so far below market, the board feels forced to step in. Because of that difference, closing timeframes diverge. Condos usually wrap up in about 45 to 60 days. A co-op can stretch to 90 days or more, and you might still walk away empty-handed. Rental rules split too. Most co-ops let you sublet only 2 years out of every 5, while condos let you bring in a tenant from day 1. Let me show you why that matters. A few years ago, when Williamsburg was the it zip code, a brand new condo launched in South Williamsburg. The first open house looked like a zoo on opening day. Crowds wrapped around the block. Agents were tossing sign-in sheets over people's heads. My client and I had done our homework days earlier. We studied the floor plans, memorized the price list, and circled one unicorn, a 3-bedroom with a private terrace and the building's only garage bay, an unheard of combo in the New York City condos. So we arrived armed, offer letter printed, bank pre-approval ready, IDs copied, all tucked in a bright manila folder. Before the doors even opened, I reintroduced myself to the listing agent to make sure that he remembered our email thread. We squeezed through the madhouse, toured the unit, and the second we stepped back into the hallway, I spot the agent. I hand him and say, everything you need is inside. We'll waive all contingencies and sign today. We shook on it, right there. My clients locked down the only condo in the building with its own garage, while dozens of other buyers were still elbowing for a look. Lesson? In a lightning fast market, preparation and decisive action equals the edge that wins the smarter luxury real estate. Let's dive into the luxury lifestyle and smarter living. Renovations first. In a condo, the alteration agreement reads more like a safety checklist. Follow the engineer's guidance, keep the quiet hours, and you can open walls at a home office, even drop in a smart home wiring without a tug of war. A co-op board, though, can veto an open kitchen today, then rewrite the rules mid-demo tomorrow. Building amenities. New build condos are basically like 5-star clubs. Co-working suites with phone booths, rooftop lounges with outdoor kitchens, lap pools that turn into cold plunge tubs, and Peloton-equipped gyms. The latest buzz? Pickleball courts, golf simulators, app-based package rooms with cold storage, EV charging garages, pet spas, and automated parking towers. All made for busy, high-earning professionals who want convenience on the tap. Most legacy co-ops still top out at a doorman and basic laundry. Oh, and maybe a small fitness room, but it's usually an afterthought. Let's talk eco factor. Smart luxury also means lower burn rate. Lead pioneers like the visionary in Battery Park City slash common charges with solar panels, cogeneration, triple glazed windows, and hospital-grade fresh air systems. You get healthier living, a lighter carbon footprint, and real savings without having to give up the marble lobby or 24-hour concierge. Put it all together, and condos deliver the flexibility, amenities, and sustainability that value-driven luxury buyers like you actually use every day. So that's the upside of moving fast. Now let's flip the coin and ask what can blow up. If a building's savings account is bare bones, one broken boiler can land every owner with a surprise 5-figure assessment or a sudden hike in monthly charges. Apartments that stare at the back of the building, face a brick wall, carry sky-high fees, or sit in a badly run building almost always trails the market when you try to resell. In brand new condos, developers often shove the city and state transfer taxes, their attorney bill, even the super unit costs onto the buyer. Miss the fine print and your closing costs balloons. The bottom line, do your homework, read the financials, and price in every hidden cost before you fall in love with that view. Let me show you why all that prep matters. Picture this, it's peak COVID, and I'm listing a tiny studio on East 94th Street. Parents want to buy it for their working adult son. He has a solid job, and parents provide the down payment. Our board package is spotless. The board still denies it, no reason given. Then we pivot to plan B. We rent it out. The bylaws clearly say that you may lease for 2 years out of every 5. My seller has owned the place for 15 years, so we're fully eligible, right? We set out to find a qualified tenant. We're about to submit the paperwork, and management fires back, leasing not permitted. No appeal from the board, no explanation, just flat no. So we regroup again. Months later, as I'm losing hope, a pied-à-terre buyer walks in, all cash, and wants to use it as a second home. The board finally waves it through, and we close at full asking price. The listing time frame, more than 12 months. The moral of the story? A co-op board can redraw the lines without a warning. So always keep a backup plan and a backup for the backup. Alright, so let's go ahead and answer Reddit's most frequently asked questions. Alright, number 1. Can you negotiate condo closing costs with a sponsor? Heck yeah. So in a hot market, it's much more difficult, or if the building has been selling really well, the seller or the sponsor, who's also known as the developer, will likely not want to negotiate any of the closing costs. But generally, in a balanced market or in a buyer's market where listings have been sitting for a while, you can absolutely negotiate closing costs. Typically, you can negotiate the transfer taxes and the legal fees, but I've negotiated things like the mansion tax, for them to pick up the resident manager's unit, the reserve costs, even offer 1 or 2 years of common charges towards the closing costs as a credit. I've also negotiated throwing in a storage unit or a parking spot. So yes, you can. All right, number 2. Who pays the flip tax? Well, flip tax, first of all, are paid in a situation where you're buying a co-op, and usually it's paid by the seller. However, it is negotiable, and depending on how much activity that the seller is getting on the listing, you can always try to negotiate and push it onto the seller. All right, number 3, quick reserve fund check. I will assume that has to do with finding out if the building has healthy reserves. So what happens typically in many buildings, co-ops or in condos, if the building doesn't have a healthy reserve, that the bank will actually not approve the loan because it's too much risk for the bank to take on, because God forbid down the road they have to do some building capital improvements, and they stamp a big assessment onto the unit owner. So this is a big risk for a lot of banks, and also for the buyer, frankly. So a quick way to find out if the building has strong reserves is you can ask for 3 months off the building's operating expenses, plus a funded capital plan in the latest financials of the building, and they'll actually hand you or email you PDFs of that information. All right, the next question is, can I Airbnb my condo? The short answer is maybe. You need to get a permit from the city, as the city issued permitting, I believe in 2022, and very few apartments qualify. There are set requirements to be able to qualify for it, and only a number of permits are allowed a year, and they're all fully used up. So it's very hard to get it in New York, and we get a lot of investors that are interested in it, but it's just so tough. The hotel industry in the city, the lobby group, has really pounded City Hall against this, and so it's incredibly hard to do it. And don't try to skirt around it and try to rent out your home to Airbnb, because they will come after you and they will penalize you heavily for it. Okay, the next question, number 5. Do I need title insurance when I buy a co-op? The answer is no, you do not. A co-op is not considered real property, and you don't actually own the property. You own shares in the corporation that the apartment happens to be in. So you don't actually have title to the unit, and so there is no title insurance. Okay, number 6. What's the New York City mansion tax and who pays it? The New York City mansion tax is like a transfer tax. It is above $1 million and starts at 1% at $1 million, and can go up to 3.9% when you hit 25 million and above. It actually is a big part of the closing costs that you will incur in New York City real estate. And finally, number 7, which is, how much post-closing cash do co-op boards want? Well, expect at least 12 months of mortgage and maintenance and liquid reserves. About 24 months for top tier buildings. And this is after you've already used your down payment to purchase the home. This is everything extra in liquid reserves. All right, now you've mastered every number, hurdle, and lifestyle trade-off in this co-op versus condo showdown. Click the thumbnail 7 red flags when buying a condo to dodge the hidden issues that can sink resale values or explode carrying costs. Master those red flags and you'll lock in the value-driven luxury home you deserve.